Okay, welcome back, everyone. I really didn't feel like doing this live stream, but as I woke up, and I have this bad habit of waking up and going immediately to the news, which spark some emotions and some feelings, some sentiment, and then I need to do a video or a live stream. It's the nature of the channel. It's all because of some urge. Uh, I wanted to go through some news because I just sat here and nothing prepared, and I just selected a couple of news for us to talk about. Things are developing in the Middle East, and they do not look good at all. They do not look good. Okay, let's jump right into it. Let's see if I don't screw up here. By the way, thanks for the comments in previous videos, and your participation is much appreciated. And also, please, I ask you in advance, share this work with others. It's been done for free, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's even if it's not 100% informative, as I am aware that I lack depth in my analysis. I hope at least it is thought-provoking, and I do not want to be some kind of oracle of truth. Nothing like that. I just want to give my thoughts on it, give my opinion, and trying to maintain, sometimes against my own opinion, a neutral stance. Although sometimes it's difficult. Okay, let's see what we have here. Let's start with Euronews. Grave miscalculation. Why were Israel's intelligence services blindsided by Gaza attack? I'm still astonished by this one. I'm still surprised. I mean, it doesn't make much sense. The apparatus have been set for many years, many decades now. Gaza has been an open-air prison, a ghetto, for decades now, and the security has been tight. I mean, tighter than it needs to be, actually. It's on the side of the harassment. I mean, people have to go through checkpoints, kids arrested, infrastructures bombed, lack of supplies. I mean, it's a living hell. It's an open air prison there. And before I jump into this news, I would like to say a few things, because the Western media suddenly announced this as something very strange, something very spontaneous, like the bad guys have awakened and now they have decided to attack the poor Israelis, and of course, and the narrative is actually sticking to many people. Many people believe this, and this can only have one reason, or maybe perhaps two possible reasons. One of them is either you are total ignorant. Of course, I'm not calling names to anyone. You people are allowed. Everyone is ignorant of something. But that doesn't excuses you of having critical thinking. One thing is being ignorant, the other thing is questioning and trying to know more. If you recognize your ignorance, you can always have room to improve. Okay. The other reason is that you are not an asshole, and you are indeed you have indeed evil inside of you, and your brain has double standards, because if you are shocked, like I have seen public figures, for example, in Portuguese news, tweeting out statements very shocked with the reality that Israelis had to face, and they ignore that this reality has been the daily life of many Palestinians. So if they are not ignorant and they think like this, at least they should assume they are effing racists. Okay, sorry about this ranting. Let's go into the news. Grave miscalculation. So, multiple failures occurred before Hamas' unprecedented assault, a former lieutenant colonel of the Israeli army told Euronews. Okay, this is Euronews. So, like every news, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Every sided news, right? So, this is Western. It's another kind of salt. So, when Hamas launches unprecedented attack on Israel early Sunday morning, it picked up the perfect storm of days. The Sukkot festival weekend meant many people were already on holiday or had returned home to spend Shabbat with their families. Yeah, talking about festivals, there wasn't a rave party or something like this ongoing quite near the Gaza fence. And this also comes across to me strange to say the least, because I mean, how can you go and party beside a place where just right on the other side of the fences you have a constant human abuse ongoing all the time? It's kind of sick. Of course, I know the territory is not large, and the vaunted Israeli Defense Forces were at minimum operational capability, with the lowest possible level of forces manning the checkpoints and military bases. Yeah, that says much. Actually, it says a lot about what's going on. I mean, it's been a one-sided fight for a long time now. Mainly civilians have been the victims. There have been arrests, and they are unable to put up much resistance. Apart from these famous images and videos that we all grew up with the drones towing young men using slingshots, burning tires, and things like this, and then getting shot by snipers. Yeah. So the factor was, plus the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, when Israel was blindsided by a lack of intelligence ahead of a 1973 attack from Egyptian and Syrian-led forces, was a psychologically significant date to launch another major salvo in this decades-long conflict. It's not really a factor, is it? I mean, if you think about it, it's because it's the fact that they were celebrating that date, or that date was chosen. It doesn't weaken. I don't see the relation here between the weakening in the surveillance and the defense. I mean, if you send your army on a holiday altogether, what kind of army is that? I would say there are. Keep on back to the news. I would say that are probably three failures we can identify at this stage, says Peter Lerner, a retired lieutenant colonel in the Israeli Defense Forces and former IDF spokesperson. All right, now it's rather interesting what he says. And he cites an overconfidence in the military's defense mechanisms, like the barrier around Gaza and the Iron Dome missile defense shield, which was overwhelmed by thousands of Hamas rockets and proved fallible. Yeah, this is what I just said. I mean, overconfidence. And why? Where does this overconfidence come? Are you like facing on the other side of the fence a very fierce enemy that you have to be aware of all times is very dangerous and it just wants to exterminate you? No, it's the other way around. It's clear that the Hamas operational plan identified the holiday, the weekend, and the limited amount of forces, and took advantage of that. And that is the similarity with what happened at Yom Kippur. Okay. I'm not even mentioning. It goes on about intelligence failures. Yeah, I'm not gonna even mention that. I mean, what kind of intelligence takes breaks like this and goes to swim and goes to celebrate? And I mean, Palestinians are just a bunch of savages inside of a fence anyway. What they're gonna do? Yeah. So I still think it's strange. Okay, so they are admitting this in the Western media that it was a mistake by the side of Israel. But like I said before, and I had yesterday, I had Russell Bentley commenting on this. Is also of the belief that actually this is Hamas merit. To all of it is Hamas merit. The magnitude of the operation and the relative success of the operation. The fight is still ongoing. Chaos is unleashed. Everyone is shocked because of human rights abuses by the so-called Hamas terrorists. But now, what is happening in this moment is it's so once you are poisoned with one side story, now everyone can happen to the other side. It's already demonized. It's how it works. This was a fast one, quick one. Look at them; they are savages, and yeah, this is their narrative. It's not me saying. It's their narrative, and I'll I'll prove it to you. Let's just hear this gentleman, Yoav Gallant, Israeli defense minister. Okay.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם. אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה.
Okay, yeah. I mean, what else can I say? It's animals. Those are not my words. And I wonder what can you blame on the women and children, on peaceful families that try to get by in Gaza every day? What are they blamed for this? Can someone explain me this? Please, if you have opinions on this, let me know in the comments. Because these are dying now. I cannot even imagine. I mean, I just seen images of the bombings and yeah, there's another tweet out here, quite interesting. This is an account this is actually an ex-IDF soldier. Former IDF soldier, and I think I don't know exactly when was this, but okay, it says here November 2015. So let's hear it as well.
אני צועק, אני משתין בלילה מפוסט טראומה. הוא בא אליי ואומר לי, למה הרגת אותי? עכשיו כל הבית מתפורר לך מול הפרצוף, חברים שלך מתפרקים לך, אתה נפצע ספציפית, נשבר לך הגוף, אבל אתה יוצא בנס. אז אני לוקח את עצמי בידיים ומפנה את הצמד של הטנק תחת אש. אחרי זה אתם לא ממלאים לי דוח פציעה? מי זאת הקציעת נפגעים שלי? איפה הוועדה? איפה? מי היה אמור לקחת אותי ליחידה לתגובות קרב? וזה אחרי התקלויות. שנצאו אותי בקרב ולהילחם לבד. שצים, אתה היית מח"ט גולני, נכון?
הייתי מח"ט גולני.
אני הייתי גם גולנצ'יק, למה אתם לא מטפלים בי? אני הרגתי בשבילכם בידיים האלה. אתם אומרים מחבלים דם על הידיים? אני הרגתי בשבילכם יותר מ-40 איש. רצחתי! אז מה אתם פה היום? 9 שנים אין לי %1! אמא שלי צריכה לשלם לי את הכל? עשרות אלפי שקלים, מאות אלפי שקלים, מה נראה לכם? פה ככה זה עומד! אמא שלי שילמה לי את הבית חולים של הפציעה שלי בעזה! אתם תבעתם את אמא שלי! אין לי דוח פציעה! מי זאת הקצינת נפגעים שלי? מי זאת? יום אחרי...
Okay. Yeah, so this is he suffers post-trauma psychological injuries. He's a former IDF, and yeah, he murdered for Israel, and now is rightfully, in my opinion, complaining about his rights and the support that he has. But I have mentioned this organization called Breaking the Silence. You should check this out because there are dozens, hundreds of accounts of former IDF soldiers of atrocities committed by Israel. And so I ask you, the ones so offended with any Arab uprising that might occur against Israel, because suddenly, I don't know if it's the color of the skin or anything that offends you, but try to put yourself in the shoes of people who live for decades here, because I am condemning Israel's acts here, but I'm not condemning the Israel people, because I know within Israel there is a lot of criticism of this. Even Orthodox Jews, they make manifestations of this in support of Palestinians and Palestinians. It is a faction that controls this, heavily supported by the US, of course. And talking about the US, let's see. US and EU, what do they do now? You have a humanitarian catastrophe. What do? Instead of calling everyone to suspend the fighting, pleading to restraint, no. The EU suspends aid to Palestine. The European Commission suspends all the aid to Palestine. Well, if you compare it, for example, with the aid to Ukraine, is insignificant, but the scale of Palestine is much smaller. But I read for you. All the projects will be put under review, and all the new budget proposals, including for 2023, are postponed until further notice. Commissioner for Neighborhood and Enlargement, Oliver Varhelyi, said. So the European Union announces freezing of the entire amount of aid to Palestine in view of the aggression against Israel. I see, it comes into play. It's clear. It's clear as the day. The double standards, the hypocrisy of the so-called Western, so-called democracies. Either there is a thing called human rights, or there is not. I mean, it's quite blatant, right? Because what are you going to do with this aid? You are going to injure the most vulnerable, the ones that were doing worse off. I'm appealing much to morals today. I'm sorry for that, but this is doesn't make any sense. Just put some critical thinking to it. It doesn't make any sense. The foundations for peace, tolerance, and coexistence must now be addressed. Incitement to hatred, violence, and glorification of terror have poisoned the minds of too many. They always neglect to explain why this sentiment arises. Terror is like the evil, this somehow existing evil, like in a Hollywood movie, evil character comes out of nowhere. It's the brewing of this violence is never thoroughly explained, and I think this would make much difference in the news if they were actually honest and telling the story as it is. If we go to Al Jazeera, I think Al Jazeera has been having a much more balanced reporting on this. And they recognize this. Hamas Gaza under total blockade, refugee camp hit. Okay, no, refugee camps are typically places with extremely bad living conditions and packed with the most vulnerable people. This is a refugee camp. And it was hit. I cannot imagine. I'm not thinking even about the casualties that occurred. And so you have Netanyahu vows to use enormous force in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has promised to change the Middle East in the country's war with Hamas. What Hamas will experience will be difficult and terrible. We are going to change the Middle East, said Netanyahu, the 73-year-old leader. This is only the beginning. We are all with you, and we will defeat them with force, enormous force. Of course, I've talked yesterday about the possibilities and the skirmishes that have already occurred on the northern border of Israel with the Hezbollah. But it appears that the Hezbollah has been treading, and I quote now a headline of the news, treading carefully. They lobbed some mortar shells, they exchanged some fires, they put out some public threats, but they haven't done much yet. We don't know, but everything is possible. It's only the third day, and I think its powder keg is on the verge of exploding here. Palestinian groups in Lebanon are eager to fight. As reports of tensions at the Lebanese-Israeli border intensify, Palestinian groups in Lebanon are eager to start a new front against Israel if Hezbollah leads the charge. While the prospect of Lebanon of joining the conflict is very a realistic possibility, when they say Lebanon, it's Hezbollah. In doing so, it would drag the region into a catastrophic war. Yeah. Escalation after escalation. I think the only sane countries' positions I've seen so far is Russia and China. I mean, Ukraine was like full support to Israel. I mean, you draw your own conclusions from that. Okay. Israel attacks targets in Lebanese territory. The Israel army has issued a statement on social media saying it has hit targets in southern Lebanon using helicopter gunships. Separately, the United Nations interim forces in southern Lebanon, the UNIFIL, said it detected explosions near Al-Bustan in southwest Lebanon. Yeah, something might be brewing there. Of course, Western leaders accused of hypocrisy over Ukraine, Palestine, right to resist. Yeah, this is like the crux of the matter, right? We realize that many of the arguments put forward are propaganda because they're not. It's not really about human rights. It's like in Ukraine. It's not really about Ukrainians or they being at the forefront of the fight for democracy. I mean, this is empty slogans. There are huge tons of proof to dismantle this kind of arguments in this kind of speech. Let me say this. So, Ukraine's resistance is praised by most international leaders, while Russia's invasion is condemned. But commentators said the same cannot be said about Israel's 56-year occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. Yeah. Let's go a little bit more. I don't know if it's under a paywall. Aaron Bastani, a leftist British journalist, said on Twitter, X, that there's a clear double standard in endorsing terrorism against civilian targets in Ukraine and condemning it by Palestinians. Unfortunately, civilians have been at the end of the spear of the violence, have been on the receiving end of the violence in both conflicts. In Ukraine, this happens in both sides, sometimes intentionally, sometimes as collateral. The same goes here, but the 56-year-old occupation is one of the sides is just they put a a blank sheet on it. They ignore it totally and they demonize it. I mean, that's the recipe. There are theories going on that okay, there are accusations, first of all, by the US that Iran was behind this. Iran gave the green light to this, and Iran officials have denied it. If you wanna know my opinion, I do not think. I think Iran supports insurgents groups and resistance groups against Israel. I think this is clear. Hezbollah is like the main example of this. But we also know that Turkey supports Hamas as well, and Qatar supports Hamas as well. And so I am not so sure. My opinion is not so sure about that this was Iran. But the theory behind it is that Iran would have interest in destabilizing the region because of this new agreement that was being reached by U.S. diplomacy between Saudi Arabia and Israel, being that Saudi Arabia would recognize the state of Israel. And this is it's quite ironic, isn't it? And strange at the same time. I mean, if you have to explain this to a kid, he finds it completely insane that the US is strong allies with Saudi Arabia, strong allies, even stronger ally of, or maybe on the same level with Israel, and Saudi Arabia doesn't recognize Israel. So yeah, things are not black and white. Yeah, and so that's the theory, that Iran wanted to destabilize because it was reaching an agreement, and now if Hamas obligates or forces Israel into a very strong and brutal response, that somehow might undermine the position in Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia was doing this deal in exchange of defense aid, defense contracts. And by the way, Saudi Arabia, which is well known by violating women's rights, for example, you don't see a Saudi woman being awarded with a Nobel Peace Prize, right? So it all depends on which values, let me put it in heavy quotation marks, they serve. Yeah, and then Al Jazeera points out a couple of tweets on this, and I read this from Saeed Yaqoubi. The hypocrisy and double standards of Western governments and media platforms dealing with situations in Ukraine, Russia, and Palestine, Israel blow the mind. Absolute disgrace. I share this opinion. And I have to make a declaration. I think Israel and Palestine could coexist together. It's not like, although I'm pointing out the hypocrisy of the Western and the violence perpetrated by Israel for a long time now, I do think the ideal solution is two coexisting countries. And let me just remind you of an old speech of a very prominent figure for the defense of human rights.
As far as Yasser Arafat is concerned, I explained to Mr. Sidney that we identify with the PLO because, just like ourselves, they are fighting for the right of self-determination. I went further, however, to say that the support for Yasser Arafat in his struggle does not mean that the ANC has ever doubted the right of Israel to exist as a state legally. We have stood quite openly and firmly for the right of that state to exist within secured borders. But of course, as I said to Mr. Sigmund in Geneva and others, that we carefully define what we mean by secure borders. We do not mean that Israel has the right to retain the territories they conquered from the Arab world, like the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and the West Bank. We don't agree with that. Those territories should be returned to the Arab people.
Yeah. I actually share this opinion in 100%. Share his opinion. And I mean, it seems to be the only solution, but there is simply no interest on the part of Israel or the Western Bloc to support for this. I mean, since February 2022, the Western Bloc has become a space of just hawkish opinions, warmongering opinions. Everything goes with a lot of emotion and anger, and yeah, it's the anger school, it's the hate school, right? The hate school is gaining memento in the Western world. We could talk about the roots of this. I think neoliberalism and savage capitalism has a lot to do with this. It not directly, sometimes directly, but the main engine is that it creates the fertile soil to sow these ideas. Yeah. And let's see what AP News has to say. I mean, let me see. Da-da-da. Okay, yeah. So the US will send carrier strike group to Eastern Mediterranean in support of Israel. I mean, sending a carrier strike group, it's not a minor thing. It's like it contributes to major escalation, and let me know what you think about this. Is this justified? Let me know, who do you think are in the right in this events, and how it should unfold. Because as all of these things develop throughout the world, and the wars and human rights violations done by many sides, including the ones that claim to be the defenders of human rights violations, sometimes mainly perpetrated by those, I don't think the public is consulted, and so it's a big failure on Western democracy. Anyway, this is what I wanted to say today. I wanted to go through some news, and yeah, because whatever I say from now on would be just a broken record. It's death toll rising. The fight intensifies. Risk of escalation, and let's just hope it doesn't get to that. Anyway, if you like this video, please support this channel by subscribing it and sharing my work with others. I do this completely on free times, on breaks from work. Sometimes I can be more eloquent if I am not on the night shift, as I'm a shift worker. Sometimes I can be better prepared. I think if I have your support, I will have in the future conditions to make better work. So what can I say now? Thank you for watching, and until the next time. Ruth Greening, by the way, thanks for the comments. Bye bye.